Hey, thank you for joining me again today for another DesignSpark Electrical tutorial. The last video we covered a general overview of all the different libraries that you have available to you. This video we're going to focus solely on the Symbols Manager. And we first open the Symbols Manager again. We have a lot of different menu options available to us. And most times in here when you're coming into this particular manager, it's to create a new symbol or to edit an existing symbol. If you want to create a new symbol, you have the ability to simply come in, select new, and you can start drawing and adding attributes as necessary. One thing to note that whatever classification you've previous selected before you select new, that's the classification that that symbol is automatically going to be added to. Now, with that said, you can go in and edit it after the fact, after creation, and put it into the appropriate classification. You also have the ability to import an existing DWG and put that into a specific classification. But what I like to do is I like to find the classification that I want my symbol to go into. I find a symbol that is closely representative of the new symbol that I want to create, and I can simply copy and paste that symbol. And by doing that, they are now identical except for one item. We can see within the naming convention of what the SQL database is looking at is that it's now added a +1. So in the case of this, I can come in, I can leave it +1, or I can give it a more descriptive name. And now I have those two symbols with a slightly different name. The next step we would want to do is open that symbol up. And we can see here that I have my symbol, and on the right hand side, the properties about that particular symbol. If you remember, the description name was identical, so we would probably want to come in and change the description about that particular symbol. We can change that classification. We can change the type of symbol this is. In this case here, I know this is a schematic symbol or a multi-wire symbol. But if I wanted to, I can always go ahead and turn this into a line diagram, a black box, terminal symbol. Most of these do not make sense for this particular type of symbol that I have here, but you have that ability if you so desire. It's also listed under the onboard library, or I can change that as necessary. Another nice feature is the ability to associate a manufacturer part to this particular connector. Now, with this generic 8-pin connector, it probably doesn't make sense to add a manufacturer part to this. But if I have a very specific symbol that is directly correlated to a manufacturer part that I use all the time, this is where I would want to enter that manufacturer part in, so that as soon as I drop that symbol in, that manufacturer part information is now going to be added to my bill of materials. The next thing I can do is I can go in and change the root of this particular symbol. So every time that I use this symbol, it's going to be, in that case, CN, but maybe I want it to say J or P for jack or plug. And then the last one that I would recommend is the display connection points. I personally like to leave this on because when I finally do decide to draw my wires on my schematic, I do have a reference of exactly where I want my wire to go. If I don't have this checked on, you can still drag your wire and connect it to the connector, but if I miss that connection point at all, my to from list may not be accurate. So I do recommend keeping my display connection points on. That way I do have a nice visual aid of where my wire absolutely needs to connect to. Now working within the symbol itself, I have, as you can see here, I have a lot of different connection points. And the tags and these grayed out identifiers here go hand in hand. If you see on the left-hand side here, I also have 8 different circuits with one connection point inside of every circuit. Now, in reality, maybe we don't need to have 8 different circuits. Maybe we want to have one circuit with 8 terminals, depending on what the end use case is. So I can very well go ahead and change, let's say, circuit 01 and move that to 0. And now you can see that I have 2 circuits, 2 terminals under circuit 0. You can also see that the hard-coded, the grayed out text here has changed to circuit 0 for these two. I can do that again in case anybody missed that. You can see that I have circuit 0. And you can see this also changed. So I have circuit 0 with pin 0, circuit 0 with pin 1, circuit 0 with pin 2. This is important to understand, again, if you are trying to create a symbol for a specific manufacturer part or a specific connector that requires you to have 3 circuits and then the other 5 may be a part of a second circuit or multiple circuits. So again, you have a lot of flexibility in how you want to create these parts and these symbols going forward. Once you figure out your connection points, this is where you would come in and you have the ability to add additional attributes or manipulate the attributes as necessary. Every attribute has its own properties where you can change the height, the rotation, or the color of that, or the justification and color of that particular item. If you don't know what those attributes mean, there is a button at the top to allow you to show samples or show the attribute name. What does it stand for? In the case of this, I have utilization, I have mnemonic, and the component mark. Maybe I want to add additional information. Maybe I need to show the manufacturer and the manufacturer part number. Well, in that case, I have the ability to go into Insert Attribute. My attribute management window will pop up, and now I can find all the different attributes that I desire to add to my project. And there are a lot of different attributes going forward. So I've selected my manufacturer and reference, and now I can add those to my specific symbol as necessary. Additionally, other than adding an attribute or inserting an attribute, I have the ability to replace an attribute. So maybe I don't want the actual manufacturer name. You can either come into up at the top and select replace attribute, or I can right click and say replace attribute. That same management window will pop up, and now I can pick a different attribute that will take its place. All the properties from the original selection will maintain. It makes it a little easier moving forward, so you don't have to constantly move things around. Once you are done with editing the particular symbol, you do have to save a DWG. So if you notice the naming convention here, this purple tab in the top left corner here, it is a .dwg file. This is a specific file. It is not one of the sheets in your project yet where it's read write. This is a DWG, so you have to go ahead and hit save. If you try to close it, it's going to ask you if you want to save anyway. But if you're trying to edit that symbol while you're live working in the schematic sheet, you're going to have to hit save and then update the symbol in the schematic. A little bit of trial and error, but that's how I do it to get it done. So again, what we just did inside of our library in our symbols manager, rather than trying to go ahead and create a new symbol, which you can definitely do if you desire, you can always go ahead and import a DWG, but I absolutely recommend trying to come in and copying and pasting an existing symbol. As you can see here, that naming convention changed. So now it took on this. So I can easily identify that new symbol going forward. So I hope this helps. I hope this helps with making your symbols or editing symbols that you have. Again, if you have more questions, please reach out. We'll be glad to try to answer any questions going forward. Thanks for watching. See you next time.